Hello, everybody. A very warm welcome to this session. It's super exciting because we're here at the end of the year. I've got to show you, we've got our Christmas sweaters on. Express Your Elf. Roberta's here. She's got her Christmas sweater on. And we're feeling very, very festive because this is the last Zoom of the year, but not the last Zoom forever, because they've been so successful that we will be carrying on with them. So I just want to if you've not met Roberta before, I just want to introduce you to Roberta. There she is. And we are joined today by none other than our lovely CMA member, somebody we're very, very excited about having with us, a lovely lady called Rebecca Lockwood. So hi there, Rebecca. Okay, great. So if everybody could please mute themselves, not you, Rebecca, just you and I are going to stay live, and then Roberta can jump in as need be. So thank you so much for joining us. It's such a pleasure to have you here, Rebecca. I think it would be absolutely fantastic if we could start by just obviously introducing you to everybody. Obviously, this is Rebecca Lockwood, everybody. And Rebecca, would you tell us a little bit about your background and how you come to find yourself in this field of work, complementary medicine?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I feel left out without a Christmas jumper on. Super excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me. So I always like, when I get asked this question, I'm like, do I give you the short version or do I give you the long version? And I suppose to kind of sum it up as much as I can, I fell into, so I teach NLP, I teach neuro-linguistic programming, hypnotherapy, positive psychology, law of attraction, and energy, and timeline therapy as well. And I kind of fell into NLP by accident. It was, I had a sales job and I wasn't enjoying it. I was in a corporate job and I wasn't offered the training that I felt like I needed in my job. I found being a woman full of offices with men, I wasn't ever given the training that I felt I needed to develop myself. And so I started to look for my own training and found NLP. And so that's really how I stumbled across it. And then when I trained in NLP myself, I was so blown away by the power of what it can do and how it works. I thought it was just going to be some sales stuff and help me with my sales stuff. And for anybody here who's doing NLP, you're like, well, that's not all it is. There is so much more to it than that.
Yeah. It certainly is. It's a fascinating field. Just speaking personally, my first foray into NLP was having done all my many years of training as in homeopathic medicine. I found, for example, that I was taking far too long to take cases, and somebody suggested to me, why don't you go and learn NLP? It's a way of really cutting to the chase. And so, and I have to say, although NLP is not supposed to be used this way, it makes me so much better a case taker to get to information, salient information faster. So it can be used in so many different ways, can't it? And I bet we've probably got a lot of people with NLP experience in the Zoom room with us today. So you did your training and you got your qualifications, Rebecca, and then what happened after that?
So when I did the training, I'd had my eldest child. So I've got two kids. I've got a 2.5-year-old and a 5-year-old. And my eldest child at the time, I just had her. She was about 1 at the time, and I'd suffered severely with postnatal depression when I first had her. And for the first 6 weeks, I knew it was bad, like I was really poorly. But after that, I thought it had gone until I did the NLP training and the timeline therapy at the same time. And it was literally like a black cloud had been lifted from my mind. And all of a sudden, everything became clear and colourful for me. And it was at that point that I realised that I had a business previous to that as well. So in between working in corporate sales positions, I also ran a very successful fashion business, and I'd closed it down prior to doing the NLP training. And I realized that I'd closed the business because I didn't believe in myself, and because I had a limiting belief of not feeling good enough and not feeling worthy of the success that I'd created in my business and my life. My business was invited to go on Dragon's Den. It was my 5-year growth plan was to turn over just short of $1 million. I'd won so many business awards and things were going amazing. I was on the biggest growth accelerator in the world, and then I just said I didn't want it anymore and I closed it. And when I did the NLP training, it was like it was like a smack in the face, really. I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I closed my business because I didn't believe I was good enough to actually create and have the success that I created. So I sabotaged it all and closed it. And at that point, I realized that so many other people must also do that and not even realize that they've done it. Because if you'd have asked me, I'd have been like, no, I'm the most confident person ever. But we don't act in accordance with what we sometimes say. We act in accordance with our deep subconscious programming and our deep subconscious beliefs. And so I kind of made it my mission at that point to help as many other people as possible not make them same mistakes that I made.
My goodness, that is extraordinary. It really is. Wow, I'm completely blown away, really quite speechless, because you know, there are parts of me that can relate, and I'm sure that there are you know, all of us in the group can probably relate to that in many ways, because it's funny, you know, and I find this with practitioners, that we will often come across as being super confident, because we're very clear, aren't we? We're very sure because we know our field very well. We know what we do very well. So, you know, people probably look at, you know, I was having this conversation earlier actually with the office manager here at my office in Berkshire, and she comes across as being such a confident person. And we were talking, she's also a qualified life coach. And, you know, she was saying, the thing is, I just don't really have the confidence to actually do it. And I thought, my goodness, that really surprises me, because she comes across as being the most confident person ever. It's really interesting. I guess we all have our little things. So did you find, so you said that you had this postnatal depression that left a sort of a cloud that you didn't even realize was there. And then you did the NLP and the timeline therapy, and then that really lifted. Once that lifted, did you then look at your business that you'd let go? Did you look at it differently and think, perhaps I should go back into that at all? How did that all sort of shape up?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely did. And it was confusing as well because it had been lifted, I did reframe the way I looked at everything. And for those of you who may not know about timeline therapy is when you really reframe the things that you think about in the past, and you release the negative emotions around any past experiences to then be able to move forward without any baggage and things like, or stories that you're telling yourself of why you can't do things. So you can really easily move into the future. And at that point, I was a bit confused. I was like, well, do I carry on with my business? Do I start it back up? Or do I make it now my point to help these women who also must have been doing that? And so I did really have to take stock of that. And I'd also, during my pregnancy, been diagnosed with OCD, which was quite severe. For me, it wasn't anything about cleaning, it was about suicidal thoughts, which was very consistent, which was really scary at the time. And so I also then did hypnotherapy as well, which really helped with that. And because of that experience, I felt like I had this inner calling and this inner guidance to just help as many other people as possible. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to do that with a fashion business. So I really just had to let go of that, draw a line in the sand, and really focus on the NLP, the hypnotherapy, the timeline therapy. And I really just got my head stuck down and really just focused on that until I was able to train others now in those modalities.
So it seems to me that almost that you found these modalities, and it sounds to me as though they were an absolute lifesaver.
100%. Yeah.
Good Lord, that's absolutely extraordinary. I mean, not extraordinary that therapies can do that, because we know they can. I mean, in my case, you know, obviously, you know, I've had a very serious illness, and I, you know, survived, and I'm, you know, here to tell the tale thanks to complementary medicine. So, you know, we know that this does happen, but I'm still always blown away, and I'm sure all of us are, when we hear yet another story of just how profoundly effective complementary medicine actually is, you know, whatever discipline. So you were really, it's interesting, isn't it, that you were able to spot that there would be other people, other women in that same sort of situation that you were in. And I think that's incredibly important, because one of the things that we talk about a lot when we talk about how to grow a practice is identifying the people that you want to work with. So was it just very clear to you that you could possibly help this particular group, or did you look at various groups, Rebecca? How did that all come about?
Yeah, it's a good question. I felt like I just had a calling to help people who had been in similar situations to me. And being a woman, I mean, I think men also do suffer with, it's not called, is it called postnatal depression? Possibly. You know, my husband had been through you know, some stuff as well. But because I felt like I could relate so much more to women, I really felt called to helping women and business owners not make them same mistakes that I made, and not feel good enough, and not feel worthy of having the things that they want in their lives. So yeah, it was really clear to me that I had to help women.
Right, okay.
In business.
That is so interesting. You know, again, a lot of people say, well, how do you find your niche? You know, how do you find the people you want to work with? And it does seem to me that it is when you sort of drill down and you do the things like the avatar work and the niche work and so on, it then becomes very, very clear, doesn't it, about, you know, who the sort of the dream client is. And you get that sort of inner feeling. I think there's definitely a sense of knowing when you suddenly land, when you or if you even eventually land on the person or the type, the character type, or, you know, as we say, the avatar type that you actually want to work with. It becomes very, very clear. It's a very strange process, and I think that's absolutely extraordinary that, you know, that this is how you got to this point of knowing who it was that you wanted to work with. So how did you then decide how you were going to work with those people? What was the process that you went through there?
It's a good question, because at first I was like, right, well, I'll help women in business with their mindset, with the business, with the strategy side of things. And that wasn't very niche. It wasn't very niche. Although I knew I was helping women in business, that was kind of the only thing. And I released programs on mindset. I released programs on limiting beliefs. I did one-to-one coaching on these things. And then I did a lot of strategy as well, business strategy. And I just found I had a lot of online business owners who needed the support and the help. And so in the beginning, I'd say in probably the first year, I was still very sporadic in my approach. So although I knew I was helping women in business, I would help them with sales, because that was my background and really my expertise. I would help them with limited beliefs, I'd help them with mindset, I helped them with the business and with the marketing. So there was still quite a wide range of things that I helped them with. It was only until, probably because I was like, no, I don't want a niche. I enjoy doing all of these things. And actually, when I had my second child, we released like digital support and websites and things like that as well, to create a passive income into the business whilst I could take some time off with my second child. And so it was only in the last 2 years that I really said, right, I am only going to train and accredit and certify NLP, hypnosis, breakthrough coaching, life coaching, and timeline therapy. It's only been in the last 1 to 2 years that I've really done that. And I'm sure we'll talk about the figures, but it made a massive difference.
Right, that's really interesting. So going narrower, rather than trying to be all things to all people, which I think a lot of us initially start to do. And I think the difficulty is because, you know, our modalities, our disciplines can treat so many different things and help so many different people and so on. So yeah, the temptation is always to try to be all things to all people, but it's interesting. So you did find that when you got narrower with your focus, or more sort of laser focus, that's really what turned things around. Can you speak to that a little bit, Rebecca?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my business was always successful anyway, because I had a background in sales. I never, like, it was only 3 months before I was able to quit my job, because I was still in the sales job and I did my NLP training. It was only 3 months before I was able to replace my income to then leave my job. And so the first year, I think we did about 35,000 just one-to-one coaching. And then it kind of really grew from there, until I really said, right, well, instead of trying to do all of these things, because what I was saying to myself was, well, I really enjoy doing these and people tell me that they need help with this. And when I was doing the research around my customer and what they needed, I still said, like, I was helping female entrepreneurs in business who needed help believing in themselves. And I thought that was specific enough. And I did that research by, setting up Facebook groups and asking them questions when they join the Facebook groups, and ask them, what is your biggest challenge at the moment when it comes to growing your business? And they were telling me they need help with sales, they need help with the mindset, they need help believing in themselves, they need help with the digital side of the business. And so I gave them what they asked for. And then I realized in the last couple of years that actually what I needed to do was I needed to be even more specific. And I looked at all of my customers and I realized that I'd actually been marketing to the wrong people. So we did really well in the business. So we still did about £100,000 before I realized that I was marketing to the wrong people. And then when I realized that all of my customers, all of my students wanted to become a coach, because at first I was like, well, NLP and self-coaching is amazing for all female entrepreneurs. So all female entrepreneurs who have their own business need to learn this, because then they'll be more effective. They'll save money on having to get their own one-to-one coach because they'll be able to self-coach. And then when I sat down and looked at who my customer was and who had actually come through my programs, it was all people who wanted to become a coach, or who were already coaching but needed more tools and techniques to add to their toolbox, or they'd just done like cheaper courses and they hadn't been sufficient enough for them to really support the clients with the transformations that they wanted to, and they were all coaches. So when I just let go of that and just said, right, I'm just gonna speak to coaches. Coaches are still female entrepreneurs anyway. That's when we tripled. We've done 260,000 this year already. And when I did that and just let it go, that was when it really started to move. So I know that, like, I'm never one for niching. Like, I never wanted to put myself in a box. I'm the kind of person who, like, you can't label me, like, I'll do anything I want. I can't be niched. I can't whittle it down. I like to do everything and everything. But when I actually just let that go and did it, like, the numbers don't lie,
Exactly. It's, I have this sort of conflict. People have this conflict with me, because this is something I always train people to do, and since the beginning of March, when we started doing these tutorials, I've been teaching sort of, identify your client, your ideal client, your avatar, create your avatar, create your niche. Don't go out and try and find a niche, because if there's a niche out there and it already exists, that means that somebody else is actually addressing that niche. You've got to go create your niche. And that sounds very much as though, that's sort of been what you've done, actually, I think. So it's very intriguing, isn't it? Because, it's counterintuitive. It goes against everything we think. Because I think, we should sort of think, well, it's this scattergun approach. I will get more people, but actually, no. And it's all about messaging. So when you're talking about sales, obviously having a very, very strong sales background, how are you marketing to this particular group? How did that all start, and how did you sort of, what kind of marketing approaches did you take?
Yeah, so I've always used Facebook groups to, not necessarily to market people in Facebook groups, but to understand who my market is within Facebook groups. So previously, when I was working with female entrepreneurs, more broadly, I set up a Facebook group called the Female Entrepreneurs Network, and I attracted female entrepreneurs into the group, and I asked them questions upon joining, like, what is your biggest challenge at the moment? What do you need the most help with when it comes to your business? And then I created everything from them questions. When I got more specific to it being coaches, I did the same thing again, but because it was even more specific, it was just so much more powerful, because I was able to tap into just one strand of that female entrepreneur. So, like, the female entrepreneur, they are still female entrepreneurs, coaches, and I was able to just tap into that one strand, and I did the same thing. So I set up a Facebook group called, I think it's called Coaching Secrets, and we do all of our research within that group. So I ask questions upon joining. One of my team members, in the beginning it was me that did it all, but now one of my team members manages it all, and she collects all that information and puts it in a spreadsheet. And then we look at that spreadsheet every week, and I do like a live video on a weekly basis. I'll do a live Facebook video, and we answer one of them questions that's being asked. So we'll do the live video about 10-20 minutes long, and always have a call to action. So whether that's to join my Facebook, whether that's to join my email list or to look at my program, there's always a call to action on that video, and then I literally use that video across all of my marketing. So we share it on our podcast, we put it on YouTube, I put it on Instagram, I put it on Instagram TV, we create graphics from it, we create a 1-minute video from it. We do, I think there's like 20 different places that we put that one video. And like I said in the beginning, it was me that did all of that, and I did it all myself. But now I just do the 10-minute video, and then my team then distribute it everywhere with the call to action. And that is our marketing strategy.
That's a very, very good use of your time and very good use of those resources. And the interesting thing is that because you're targeting so precisely, people are going to sort of, your target audience are going to see you everywhere, aren't they? You know, you will be popping up left, right and centre because, you know, because of the way that those platforms are feeding directly to your ideal clients. Did you find it easy enough to actually find your demographic on Facebook? Clearly, obviously, you know, you set up the groups, but my understanding of, I'm thinking about how people can, you know, how our viewers can actually use this in the most practical way. If they were to set up a group, my understanding of Facebook groups is that you can't actually create lookalike audiences from groups, or is that not the case? I've looked at it sort of vaguely, and I don't think you can. So how do you know about that?
So when you say lookalike audiences, I'm assuming you mean Facebook ads.
That's right. Yes, for Facebook ads and so on.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can actually. We use our website traffic to create lookalike audiences. One of the things that you mentioned about people seeing it everywhere, like my students always say to me, well, you just kept popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I just decided it was time to do it now. But in terms of a Facebook group, so in the beginning, I utilized other people's Facebook groups. So obviously it depends on other people's, you know, sometimes they have rules and things in Facebook groups, but a lot of other Facebook groups have like promo threads, and you can share what's the word I'm looking for? Informative, educational marketing content. So like, for example, the 10-minute video I do every week, my team member creates like a short blog from it, which is very informative and educational, and we then share that into Facebook groups that have our target audience in them. So the idea behind that is that we'll be driving traffic to our Facebook page, which then will drive traffic to the website and drive traffic to our Facebook groups and email lists. So in the beginning, there was a lot more time spent on organically doing the marketing. However, now we do a lot of Facebook ads. From as little as £5 a day, we'll create a lookalike audience from our website traffic.
Right. Yes. And do you find that you get a good return on that investment, whatever money you are spending on Facebook ads, for example? Do you find that you are getting a good return on that investment?
Yes. Yeah. So I a couple of years ago, I identified 2 main elements that I needed to get good at in my business, and I invested in 2 courses to help myself rather than hiring other team members in. And the thinking behind it really was that if I do decide at a later stage to add team members to do Facebook ads and PR campaigns, then I'll know inside out myself. And them 2 major areas were Facebook ads and media coverage, because I wanted to get featured in places like Grazia, Cosmopolitan, Marie Claire, Women's Health and things like that. And so I became an expert really at doing them things as well. So I became really good at Facebook ads, and I think the course was only about £600. So in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't really that much, because it's generated £260,000 of business now. You know, at the time it wasn't, you know, it wasn't just £600 at the time, but now it's like it kind of outweighs it. And then the PR media coverage course was probably about the same. And so I think it's really important not only to look at where you're marketing and your return, but also identify like what are the really important areas that I need to learn about that's going to really move the needle in my business, and how can I learn them effectively. Because I think a lot of people, sorry, this is going off topic a little bit, but a lot of people tend to see the Facebook algorithm, and then they'll see people doing really well, and they'll think that they need to be doing, and I did this as well, they'll think that they need to be doing that to be successful. But there's a few things that we need to take into consideration. Is one, we can't really tell how successful they are. They may be saying they're successful, but that's not always necessarily the case, unfortunately. And secondly, sometimes like we compare the front end of somebody else's business to the back end of our own business. And what we really need to do is we really need to first get solid belief in ourselves and our own path. And secondly, identify like a one-page business plan. Like, what are the two key areas that I need to learn about to become successful at marketing? Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes perfect sense. Absolutely. I think one of the things that you've said there that I think is absolutely crucial is becoming an expert on these things. Even though you may intend to bring staff on, it's really helpful that you know your way around these things, so that you know that the staff are actually doing whatever correctly, and the chances are they may be able to do them faster than you, because they're not also dealing with the gazillion and one other things that you're dealing with, so they can be far more efficient, but that you know you've got the faith in them, you know that they actually are doing it right, and also that you can guide them, because if they've not paid the 600 or whatever pounds to go on a similar course, they may not have the skill set that you need them to have. So did you find that you trained up your Facebook ads member of staff or team member, or did they come sort of fully formed to you?
Yeah, good question. I did it myself for quite a while. I probably did it myself for about 12 months, and then my husband joined us in the business, and we trained him in July to do them. So now he manages all that side of things.
Right. So you trained him up according to what you'd learned. Right. Okay. And in the chat, actually, by the way, everybody, but please do feel free to ask questions in the chat. Nicola has said in the chat, would love to know more about the PR marketing course. Would you mind talking about that a little, Rebecca?
Yeah, sure. So the PR marketing course I did was with Susie Moore, which was really brilliant. Although there's actually a method that I'm going to tell you now, because it'll only take me 2 seconds to tell you, that actually gets you a lot more coverage much faster. So Susie's brilliant, and her course teaches you how to get guest posts in really great places. But actually, I've been featured in Grazia numerous times, Metro, Marie Claire. I've just done some really big national campaigns with the government in iPaper, The Times, and another really big paper. It was like a massive spread, which was really amazing and still very surreal. Women's Health, Marie Claire, there's so many that I've lost track. And all you do is you go on Twitter, you search journal request. Everyone's writing this down. Please do write it down. It's really easy and really simple. Go to Twitter, search journal request, hashtag journal request, filter for the latest, and just be really consistent with replying to journalists' requests. When you reply to the requests, you've got to do it fast. So I advise doing it immediately as soon as you see the request. Follow up with them. I used to keep a spreadsheet of them, and then keep their details on file, and every couple of weeks just send them an email and ask them, is there anything that you're working on this week that you want some comments for? And then you'll get to the point where they'll just come directly to you. So like this week I've had 3 Metro articles, a Grazia article, patient info article, because they've all just emailed me to ask for comments. So as long as you're consistent in doing it, you'll get the requests that come to you then.
That is solid gold information. Thank you so much, Rebecca. That is so generous. Thank you very, very much. That's absolutely amazing. So, okay, so moving on from there, we so we sort of slightly digressed, because we started talking about sort of marketing and sales and Facebook ads and which we may come back to possibly. But I was wondering, so you set up your training and you niched down and you realized that these are the particular people that you wanted to work with. And so I presume, correct me if I'm wrong, but I presume everything was sort of toddling along quite nicely until maybe March this year. What happened then?
Yeah, so this year was always on the cards for a big growth year. My youngest child is 2, so like that first year I didn't want to do anything too major. I just wanted to like let things toddle along and be there with her. So this year was always my plan to really grow it. And then when we came to, and we started off really well, we did like, you know, about £30,000 in the first quarter, and then we got to March, and then the pandemic happened, and I panicked, like pooped my pants, just like everyone naturally did. Yeah. But seriously, it was like, it was so bad, because like I tell people and teach people not to watch the news and not to get knee deep in bad news, but I was like glued to my phone because I was trying to update myself on what to do and when to do it and how I could train my people. And we had an in-person training course in March and was due to have another in April, which was fully booked. When everything happened, it was like the week after my March training, and when we went into lockdown, I had my April students requesting refunds, and like I just panicked. Like I found myself slipping back into OCD tendencies, and it wasn't for very long, thankfully, but I really reverted and regressed, and I felt like I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. Like thankfully it was only about 3 or 4 days, because I ended up tapping into some of the law of attraction content that I was creating at the time, and thankfully that pulled me out of it, and I was able to really change my perception and reframe the way I was thinking. But I found myself in a really bad place for too long. Even though it was only 3 or 4 days, it was still too long.
Yeah, it was horrendous, wasn't it? I mean, I think we all kind of went there, because we're all in the business of working with people, and when those people's work isn't happening, or it just all of it was just actually terrifying. So yeah, totally relate. So what did you do then? What happened next?
Yeah, so there was 10 members of staff I had at the time as well, and 4 or 5 of them had their own business as well. So as well as working for me as a freelancer, they also had their own businesses, and they were calling me and panicking and asking me for help in their business. And it was so difficult, because obviously I wanted to help them, and I feel like I'm very much a giver, but then I also had my own business to think about, and so it was really, really difficult. So I ended up really reframing the business and having to take a step back and take everything online. So we'd always planned to take everything online anyway, but not in the way that we did. I set up a Facebook group, which is what I do best, around mindset. So I was like, well, how can I help people now? Like, there's no point in dwelling in this and dwelling in myself, because that's what I was doing, and being negative, because I was being very negative, even as a very positive person in general. So I just asked myself a better question, like, what can I do in this situation? So I started a Facebook group, and amazingly, the Facebook group got featured in some really big media places like the Metro and Grazia and Marie Claire, Glamour magazine. And so we got a lot of people come to the group, and something inside me was like, just do a launch, Rebecca, just do a launch, like sell lots of your product, because people need this right now. Like, people need to help themselves. And so I just reverted to work. Like, I just, probably not very healthily, but that's what I did, and it made me feel better. I just focused on getting people in my course, because I knew that would help them change their lives and help them feel better. And as a result of that, it helped me as well. So I did a launch in March, and we'd been doing successfully in the business anyway, but it was our first I think we did like £23,000 in sales in March, then again in April, then again in June, then again April, May, June, July. Then Neil joined us in the business, thankfully, because I was at home with my 2 young children full time whilst growing this business. It was becoming a bit of a beast. So he joined us in July. And then we did the same again which was really scary, because I not only had to pay my wage then, but I had to pay his wage. And I very much think that we should be paying ourselves a wage properly from the get-go of our business. And then it happened again in July, August, September, October. And then we came to October, and I felt like I was quite satisfied with the way things were going. We were doing nice, steady £20,000 months, and I just kept getting this inner guidance again. I was like, do a launch. Do a launch. And I was like, well, we don't need to do a launch. We'd already done about 180, I don't know, 150, £160,000 in sales. and I just got this push from the universe, just do it.
And so you did.
So I did.
Yeah, fantastic. So when you say you do a launch, can you explain to the viewers what that actually looks like, and you know, what is it exactly?
Yeah, definitely. So I've done numerous launches in the business. Some have been very successful, some have been okay, some have been just average. And what I mean by launch is I mean a lot of sales activity, like a flurry of sales activity in a certain time frame. So I did it this time through webinars. So I delivered a 1 hour, 1.5 to 2 hour webinar training people on how to become a coach. So because at that point I decided, then I was like, right, well, coaches are my customer. I know that now. Coaches are my students, and they either know that they want to be a coach and just haven't yet trained. They either have trained but haven't trained sufficiently and want to get further development, or they have already trained and they just want to add NLP and some more tools and techniques to really help them with the client's transformations. And so at that point, I decided to really niche and focus on delivering some training on how to start a coaching business. And so we did a lot of sales activity over 2 weeks. Scary, because although the business was doing really well, you know, due to overheads and everything in the business, we didn't necessarily have 10-15 grand in cash to then spend on Facebook ads, because we do payment plans over like 12 to 24 months in our business. So I just want to be really clear about this, because I think this is really important. So our business has done about just over 260,000 pounds in sales this year. That's not all cash. So what I mean by this, sorry, I'm off topic a little bit, is that we do payment plans over, we do payment in full, or you can pay over 4 months up to 24 months. So in March, I decided to release a 24-month payment plan to make it really affordable for people to join the course. And so cash sales may be, so for example, if someone joined on a 24-month payment plan, it would be £89 in cash, but it's £2,200 in total, right? So when I say I've done £260,000 in cash, I mean in total sales. The cash sales has been about just short of £100,000. It's like £300 short of £100,000 so far. So just want to be really clear about that, because when you're running your business, it's really important to add up your cash sales and your overall sales, because you have made them sales at the time you've made them. So yeah, so this launch activity, sorry, I went off topic a little bit.
Oh, that's so helpful, thank you.
I think it's really important, yeah. So we worked out the figures based on industry standards that we needed to spend. Our target was £100,000. So I knew I wanted to do £100,000 in my launch, and my biggest launch by that point was about £10,000. And so I thought, right, I want to do £100,000. I just want to do it. To be able to have done it. So our target was £100,000, and we worked backwards from that and realised that we needed to spend, it was like £9,400 on Facebook ads to be able to generate that amount of sales. So we set the sales, we set it running, and it was so scary because we were spending £1,000 a day on Facebook ads. And I was saying to my husband, should we stop them? Like every day I was like, should we just stop them? And he was like, no, it's fine. And I was like, right, I'll apply everything I know in NLP to myself. I'll get rid of the limiting beliefs. Do everything on myself that I recommend that my clients do, and apply everything to myself. And we ran under target. We didn't even generate half the amount of leads that we needed to convert the 2%, which is very ambitious. It should really be 1% that we should convert. However, we pulled through, and we ended up doing £90,358 in November, which is still feels very surreal.
That is amazing. My goodness.
So incredible.
That really is fantastic. So a couple of things. The first thing that comes to mind is you mentioned payment plans. If anybody is looking at putting together a training and they, would like to spread, offer spread payments, how do you actually make sure that somebody doesn't just do your course and then cancel their payments?
Yeah, this is a really good question, and we're still learning as we go. So the industry standard of people, the churn, I think they call it, the churn is about 3%. As far as I've researched, we have less than 1%. We do have things in place which say in the terms and conditions that they are bound by the contract. We do give a 14-day cooling off period, which we don't actually have to. By law, we don't have to do that because it's a digital download product. It's an instant contract. However, we decided that because some people might just not just get on with it, and that's fine. So we offer a 14-day cooling off period. And then what we do is we have a payment gateway called Stripe. So we use Stripe payment. We used to use PayPal, but PayPal isn't so good for this because if it fails with PayPal, they tend to cancel it within 1 or 2 failed payments. Whereas Stripe, you do 3 payments before they then put it on hold, and then you can reinstate it yourself. So Stripe is the best payment gateway I've found. And what we do is we have like a process that we follow. So in our CRM system, we've got emails that we send if somebody's, some people's cards just expire, or some people's move house and the postcode doesn't match, so the payment doesn't go through. So we've got like specific processes that we follow for these, and one of my team members follows up with them. And then we do have some people who just ignore us and don't pay. So we've got a payment escalation process, and like I said, it is less than 1% that have done this. So in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing really. But we do have an escalation process, and we are in the process now of researching how to add late payment fees. But we do say, like, if anybody is experiencing payment difficulties or are in financial burden or whatever, we do offer up to 1 to 3 months payment holds as well.
Right. Oh, that's really generous. That's very, very kind. Yeah. And especially, I think at the moment, particularly with the bizarre stuff that's going on financially for everybody at the moment, I think that's actually a very kind and very compassionate way of looking at things at the moment. So I think it's really great. We've got another question from Nicola. What's the best way to calculate what you need to spend on Facebook ads? Gosh, how long is a piece of string? I'm sure you would agree. Nicola, so when you say what's the best way to calculate what you need to spend on Facebook ads, Nicola, if you're listening, could you possibly just flesh that out a wee bit? And Rebecca, do you have any thoughts about that?
Yes, I do have a formula that I follow, which I'll just pull up now in front of me, so I've got it. Because I was going through last night, I was going through my next launch in January.
Right. So
this is to be taken with a pinch of salt, because it really depends on your business and what, how engaged your audience are as well. So like, I've been building my email list now for 5 years. So I can probably expect a higher conversion rate than normal because I've got a very engaged audience. But as an industry standard, you'd want to start with your target, and then from your target, work out how many customers you need. So for example, our next launch target is 250,000, which makes me get heart palpitations in an exciting way. So we've worked out from that our product is just over £2,000, which means that we need 118 customers. Now, as a rule of thumb, I would usually suggest looking at a 1% conversion rate. We're going with 2% because we've got a very engaged audience already. So from that, you want to look at, okay, how many leads do I need to generate into my business based on that conversion? Usually you want to allow between £6 to £8 per lead for a webinar. And then from that, you'll get your ad spend.
Right.
So our ad spend in January will be like £30,000.
Right. Oh my gosh. It's crazy, isn't it? But so essentially what you're doing is you're reverse engineering it. You're sort of saying, well, I want to, I want to bring in this much money, and this is what I've got to do. But that's Nicola says, where's the best way to calculate what you need to spend? Oh, that's what yes, that helps. Okay, I'm glad. So we answered your question. That's really great, Nicola. Good, thank you, Rebecca. That's fantastic. So yes, I mean, the idea of spending £30,000 in just 1 month on Facebook ads is really
in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks. Oh gosh, that's scary, isn't it? How do you cope with that sort of that kind of pressure, you know, because to me, you know, I look at it and I just think, my goodness, you know, that is a lot of pressure. How do you sort of get yourself, how do you steel yourself to do that, Rebecca?
Yeah, so it was scary just doing the £10,000 on ads. And, you know, like I said before, I just had to apply everything that I know and teach to myself. You know, on a weekly basis, I'll work on my own energy. I'll do talent therapy with myself. I'll do NLP techniques with myself. I'll put my goals into the future, and I'll do the anxiety model. I'll use hypnotherapy on myself. It's really about just applying what you know to yourself, and really living by that, because it's only a limit. Like, I nearly didn't launch. I kept telling myself I was too busy. Which sounds really plausible, doesn't it? Like, I was going on holiday for a week with my kids. Then the week after that, I was delivering a live 6-day practitioner program. And then I wanted to do it all within that time frame. And I had to put together my master practitioner content and revise and pull all my notes together the week, like within 2 weeks of that. So I kept saying to myself, I'm too busy, I can't do it. And I realized it was a limiting belief. And when I kept getting this push from the universe or whatever, you know, higher self, God, your spirit, it doesn't matter what, it's the same thing for me. And when I kept getting this push and these nudges, I just knew that I had to get rid of the limiting beliefs and the stories I was telling myself about why I couldn't do it, and just do it. And I'll do the same as I did in January. I'll just apply all of that to myself again.
So real massive self-care. And that's really interesting. Yeah. Actually, it makes complete sense, because, you know, obviously we've all got faith in the work that we're doing, and we know that it works for people. So yes, apply it to ourselves. Absolutely crucial. I think that's beautiful. Thank you so much. It does actually, I must say at this point, that, you know, you've got this fantastic free NLP course that people can just download. Am I right in saying that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Roberta, would you be able to just make a note of that? Rebecca, if you can tell us what you know, where people go for that. Do they just go to your website?
Yeah, it's on my website, RebeccaLockwood.org.uk.
Yeah.
/intro to NLP, I think. Let me just double check.
Will they just see it when they go to your homepage?
Yeah, RebeccaLockwood.org.uk /intro to NLP.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. So, did you actually find that the pandemic affected your business? You know, did you have people sort of saying, you know, or did you get any kickback from people saying things like, oh, well, it's the pandemic, I can't possibly afford this, I haven't got any money, etc., etc., etc.? Because I know that's a huge objection that a lot of people come back with. How, you know, what happened around that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I've had two different kinds of people. I've had the people who have said I just can't do anything at the moment. There's, you know, the pandemic, whether it's, you know, it's manifested itself in different ways in different people's lives. And the most people who've said that, I've said it because their business isn't, they're not doing sales in the business, or they are, or they have been made redundant or something like that. And it's funny, because when I said about not making sales in the business, I realized that when I felt like that, it was down to a limiting belief, because then I have these other people, and these people who aren't able to run the business, they aren't able to operate, a lot of beauty therapists who haven't been able to do anything, or they have been made redundant. And then people have said, I've got all of this time, and now I'm going to use it to learn something new, to be able to not be restricted again by a job or by a business that I have to operate in a certain kind of way. And you know, I've had beauty therapists who have not been able to operate in the business at all. They've not been able to get an income at all from the business. And then when we came out of lockdown and then went back into it again, it was like a double whammy for them kinds of businesses, and the kind of businesses that can't, you know, operate. But I've still had them students plowing through and really making the most and being really optimistic.
That is fantastic. So,
but sorry, Janie, I do think that it really comes down to my perception, like how I perceive the situation, how I behave based on my own perception of the situation. That's what made the difference.
That is so interesting. That really, really is. So it's really a case of, if I'm hearing you correctly, it's really a case of acknowledging, I suppose, that, you know, what we suspect might be going on out there may actually not be real. It's so much down to our perception, and that by changing our perception, we can actually change our reality. Is that a good summation of?
Yeah, definitely.
Right, right, interesting, so fascinating. Okay, so right, so what are your plans, Rebecca? You know, from here on, obviously you've got this next big launch in January, and then what happens after that? You know, where are things going? And ultimately, will you just keep doing this, or is there a point where is there an exit strategy at the end?
Yeah, good question. I love what I do. Like, I love what I do so much, because when I speak to my students, they tell me how they get their testimonials from their clients now. And when I see their testimonials from their clients, that really makes me really know why I do what I do. And when I speak to my students after they've gone through the program, that just really puts a fire up my backside to make sure that I really move and support as many people to experience them shifts as possible. So in the next 12 months, we aim to reach 7 figures in sales, and we'll do that through, we plan on having 5 launches with a target of £250 per launch, because if we miss target on one of them, we'll, or overall, we'll make it up on the 5th one. So yeah, that's really, it's not about the money though. Like it used to be when, you know, before I had this business and I had the fashion business, it was about the money. I'd always told myself I'd be a millionaire by the time I'm 30. It's a long story, but I did. And my mum would tell me stories about winning the lottery and what she'd do with the money, and we didn't live very well. And so I told myself when I was like 11 that by the time I was 30, I'd be a millionaire. I turned 30 in July, and this next 12 months is my year.
Right, fantastic. So you're on target.
Yeah, we are.
That's absolutely fantastic. Roberta, thank you very much for putting Rebecca's website there. That's absolutely fantastic. I'm sure people will be hitting your site immediately. I know I will, of course. Okay, so, and as far as exit strategy is concerned, because it sounds to me, Rebecca, that you're getting, you see, I can't see you. I can't see you exiting, because you really love what you're doing, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. It's like the meaning of life. Like, it's funny because when I first trained in NLP, it felt like I'd come home, like I'd found something that I never knew I was looking for. And I didn't expect any of my students to experience that until they did. And they say to me the same things that I felt when I did it. And it's so beautiful because I never tell them that I felt that. And they come to me and they say, oh my God, I feel like I've found what I've always been searching for that I've never knew. Or like it feels like they've come home, and I can't imagine myself doing anything else.
I think it's really interesting, actually, when you have so much passion for the work that you do, it then becomes not work, does it really? You know, they do say that, don't they? You know, find what you love doing, you'll never work another day for the rest of your life, which I think is absolutely beautiful. And, you know, you're sharing everything so generously with us. So what I would love to do at this point, everybody, because we can't, you know, I can't believe how fast this hour has gone. We're nearly, you know, at the top of the hour, but I just want to say, has anybody got any questions for Rebecca at all? Because I'm sure you have. So, you know, if you would like to, I would be very happy if you can either pop questions in the chat box, or you can actually unmute yourselves and actually chat directly with us if anybody has any questions at all. So just leave some space for any of those to come through. And I'm just going to have a little scroll along just to see if anybody's got. We may well, of course, have answered everything everybody wants to know, but if you would like to jump in, anybody, just please let us know. And also, what would be really helpful is if you can tell us if this session has been helpful for you. Oh, Sarah says it's fantastic. Thank you. Well, it is helpful. Yes, it is fantastic. Honestly, I'm blown away. Honestly, Rebecca, this is just extraordinary information, and you're sharing so generously. Fabiana says, just want to say thank you so much for being so open and generous with all your experience and information. Yes, thank you, Fabiana. I completely agree. Actually, one of the things that I was talking about, I think it was possibly last week, we were talking about sharing. And would you agree, when you're doing your webinars, of course, would you agree that we shouldn't hold back if we're doing a webinar, that we should actually share very, very generously? How do you feel about that, Rebecca?
Yeah, so really quickly, because it'll only take me 2 minutes to explain it to you. A really powerful way to do webinars is to have, and if you do them the right way, you don't have to hold anything back, because it would be natural for people to take the next step into your program from the webinar. So yeah, 100%. How I do mine is I teach like 3 key teaching points throughout the webinar. So then I'll come to like the first point and I'll tell a story about why that applies, something, how it applied in my life, or how it applied to someone in my, one of my clients. Then I'll share a couple of key teaching points on that point, and then I'll tell a testimonial. I'll give a testimonial from someone who got that result from applying that thing by using my program. So the first time you launch your program, it may not be as easy, but you can still use client examples that still tie into the program that you're selling. So if you format a webinar in the right way, you're selling your program throughout, and you don't have to hold back, because everything that you're sharing links to them taking the next step anyway, which is buying your program.
Absolutely, yes. And I really do tend to think that people are far more likely, it's this whole sort of know, like and trust factor, which I think is what a webinar really does demonstrate, doesn't it? And I think, we buy from people that we obviously get to know through the webinar. We get to like them because they're sharing so generously, and clearly we can trust them because we're hearing what they say, it's all congruent and so on. And I think this is why these webinars work so incredibly well. A lot of people actually say, if I can play devil's advocate for a moment, a lot of people actually say, oh, the day of the webinar is over. How do you respond to that, Rebecca? Because clearly it's not for you, is it? It's clearly.
I was just going to say, well, no, we just did £90,000 off the back of 3.5 webinars. I said 3.5 because the last one I pulled out of the bag last minute and we didn't have that many signups. But yeah, definitely not. And that'll be the method that I'll use in January as well and for the rest of the year.
Yeah. And how are you promoting those webinars? Is it just through Facebook ads, or are you advertising on other platforms at all?
We just use Facebook ads now because that's been the most effective for us, just to keep things as simple as possible. However, previously when I didn't use Facebook ads and I was doing everything organically, I would share a lot more on other platforms, change like banners on the website or Facebook social media and things like that. But this time now it is keeping it as simple and straightforward as possible, just doing Facebook ads.
Okay, so with the webinar, for example, when you're advertising those, are you doing video ads or are you just doing static picture ads?
We tested some.
Yeah.
We tested some video ads. We tested some video ads last time we ran. Last time we ran it, and the video ads weren't as effective as the static ones, which actually surprised me, because what I learned in the Facebook ads content that I did was that video ads can be really effective, but for me they weren't. But I wouldn't rule them out in the future. I'd definitely test them first, and I'd suggest other people test them, because you can spend just £5 a day on testing, which doesn't have to be much. But yeah, that was my experience.
Yes, I mean, I tend to feel, from a marketing point of view, I think there's never been anything like this ever in history. The opportunities that are available to us and the ability to test, split test and so on is just extraordinary. I mean, if you think about, a few years ago before the internet, and you'd be running print ads and you'd have to try to work out the response and so on, but you can see it in real time now with Facebook, and that really is quite gratifying, because it means that you're not going to continue to throw money down a great big black hole, but you've got to be on the ball, haven't you? This is absolutely crucial. So is that something that you still manage yourself? I know you've got this team member who does the ads for you. Do they actually have free rein with your budget, or do you sort of look at the results that are coming through and work out whether you're going to put more money in, or how does that side of things work?
Yeah, so it's my husband that manages them now. So I work out the overall strategy, right, and then he implements it. So that's how we run the whole business. Like I work out the strategy that we're going to follow, and then my team members will implement the strategy. Right. But it's always me that comes up with the strategy. But he'll, like, my team, my husband will run the Facebook ads figures, and I might check in on them on every other day just to have a look and see what's going on. And then speak of the devil. I don't know. And then I'll check in with them every other day, but I always set the budget, because we'll work the budget out based on what the outcome is that we want from the launch.
Right, okay. So you're not micromanaging, but you're keeping hands on, but you're not micromanaging, which I think is great because it takes so much pressure off you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For sure, yeah. Carry on. Sorry.
It was hard to begin with. Like, I really wanted to be involved in everything, especially because I was doing it previously. But again, I applied everything that I know about our mindset and NLP to myself. Sorry about that.
That's all right, don't worry.
I applied everything that I know, because especially like, I wouldn't say I suffer with OCD anymore, but sometimes it can be hard for me to let go of control of things. And I think that goes for everybody in a business, especially when there's a lot of money involved. So I really do have to work on, being able to take that step back and just let them do what they're doing. And I'm really grateful, because I do have fantastic team members who do just get on with stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. What I notice is that people always say it's really difficult to get good staff. And yes, it is. But I think a lot of what you put out is what you get back. And so, I think, we attract good things into our lives by being good people. And so, yeah, it stands to reason that you're getting these wonderful people around you. So just to have a quick, I know there's a question there. Oh, Suki says, Rebecca, what is, in your view, the best course you can take for digital marketing?
Oh, well, digital marketing is such a broad subject.
It is, yeah. What did you do for Facebook ads, for example?
So to learn Facebook ads, I did a course by Rick Mulready.
Rick Mulready, yes.
He's brilliant. Because I learned, it was actually from it. So Amy Porterfield's fantastic. In fact, if you're wanting to start a course, I would suggest Amy Porterfield, because she's brilliant. And I learned a lot from her about Facebook ads, because Rick he was like a guest on her course, and then I went to go learn more about ads from Rick, and she also talked about getting guest posts, and it was from that I identified that I wanted to learn more about ads and getting media coverage. So Amy Porterfield's brilliant, but there are so many different things out there, and Jenny, I'm sure that you've spoken about these kinds of things on what you do as well. So even like checking out Amy Porterfield's blog, because she's got so many, like, I literally read her full blog, and she's got like 400 blogs.
Yes.
And just from that, like, there's so much value from that.
Yes, it's interesting actually. I suppose the thing is, with your background, coming from this incredible sales background and having had such a successful business previously, I suppose the thing is with Amy Porterfield, if people are watching and they haven't come across Amy yet, Amy's fantastic if you are looking to, as Rebecca just said, to launch a course. And the thing is, I imagine with you, Rebecca, probably a lot of what Amy teaches is stuff that you already knew anyway. I often think though, when we're sort of looking at setting up something new, it doesn't harm to revisit. Sometimes we know these things, but sometimes it helps to rehear them just from somebody else saying it in a slightly different way. But I think there is a real danger in bright, shiny object syndrome and thinking, and I know I'm absolutely victim of this myself sometimes. I'm not so bad now because I've just gone, right, that's it, no more courses. But I've done pretty much everybody's courses as well. And I haven't done all of Amy's, but I've read Amy non-stop and listened to her podcast and so on. She is excellent. But the thing is that, the worry I have about bright, shiny object syndrome is where people sort of, they'll think, oh, I need to do this course. Oh, I need to do this course. And actually, there's an awful lot of procrastination. Doing courses non-stop. You've got to say, right, this is what I'm doing, and then I'm going for it. Whereas if you're sort of saying, right, I'm doing this course, and oh, I'm not quite good enough yet, I'll do this course, and oh, I need to know this piece of info, and that is just lack of self-confidence, and it's procrastination that is supporting that lack of self-confidence. Would you agree with that, Rebecca?
100%. I think that hits the nail on the head with what I was saying about, when you see people being successful and you think that you have to do what they're doing, it's not necessarily the case. And also, like, there's a lot of people who are very good at marketing, and like they'll, I don't want to say lure you in, but you know, it's that kind of thing. And the best thing to do is get rid of limiting beliefs.
Yes.
Get rid of limiting beliefs, check in on any self-sabotage, and really like identify what are the 2 key areas that are going to really move your business forward. And before you do that, get rid of any limiting beliefs and any stories that you're telling yourself about limiting yourself. It always starts with mindset. Like, you can have all the strategy in the world. Like, I had a really successful business before this one, but because I didn't believe I was good enough to have it and believe I was worthy of having the success I've created, I sabotaged it all anyway. So the strategy didn't do anything for me. It was the limiting beliefs that really knocked it off.
It's very interesting, isn't it, that we've got some gorgeous comments which I will read out in a moment, but yes, just to let you know, yes, Roberta, thank you. It is Amy Porterfield that Roberta's put in the notes, and also Rick Mulready. Yes, Roberta, that is exactly right, so thank you for that, really appreciate it. Yeah, I've got gorgeous comments which we will read out in a moment, but I was just going to say, as far as, yeah, I know what I was going to say. It's very interesting to me that you often see this with millionaires, multimillionaires and billionaires, is that they will have had multiple £1 million or dollar or $1 billion businesses, and it will stop or they'll go down and they will start again. And it's this ability to pick yourself up, get rid of those limiting beliefs and start again from scratch. And this is a serial entrepreneurialism. It's easy enough for other people to say, but yeah, it's a thing, isn't it? It truly is, and so it's very interesting to see that. But my goodness, I think we're all so grateful that you've actually, you know, that you started and that you're here to tell us all this stuff. Let's have a look at these lovely questions, these lovely comments and so on. So yeah, because I think, you know, it's really important for you to hear all of this, Rebecca. So Sarah says, fantastic, thank you. Ranisha says, very helpful, thank you. Fabiana says, just wanted to say thank you so much for being so open and generous with all your experience and information. Linda says, thank you, very helpful. I love NLP too, so do I. Carol Lynn says, thank you, Rebecca. I found your story such an inspiration. You've been so very generous in sharing. Andrea says, this has been really useful, thank you. Geraldine says, really helpful, so lovely to have such openness and detailed information. Thanks, Rebecca and Janie and Roberta. Sandra says, thank you so much. What an honest, generous and natural person, delivered with so much joy. So kind for sharing your knowledge, Rebecca. Once again, thanks to Jenny and CMA staff. Suki says, oh, we said, yeah, that was Suki's question that she asked about digital marketing. And Lawrence says, proves yet again that people buy people, not product. Absolutely true. With such a personality, who wouldn't buy? Great content and much appreciated. Have to run. Thanks so much. Everybody else says, thank you so much. Oh yes, that was then Suki, no, sorry, Geraldine was saying, could we spell the marketing people's names, Amy Porterfield and Rick Mulready. And Claire says, thank you so much, I have to go. So yes, I know we've run over, but honestly, Rebecca, what can we say? You know, we've had some amazing tutorials throughout the year. We really, really genuinely have. And this is the icing on the cake. This is the Christmas present to end all Christmas presents. Thank you so much. Season's greetings to you and everybody. We are so grateful. You're just absolutely amazing. And honestly, this is just perfect. We couldn't have ended on a higher note. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's been brilliant.
Pleasure. Okay, lots of love and goodbye to everybody. Thank you so much. Roberta, thank you so much, my love. You're an angel as always. Roberta's not supposed to be working today, but she's here helping us nevertheless. Take care, loves. All the best. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.